G'day. I'm Lola Berry, nutritionist, author, actor, TV presenter, and professional oversharer. This podcast is all about celebrating failure because I believe it's a chance for us to learn, grow, and face our blind spots. Each week, I'll interview a different guest about their highs as well as their lows, all in a bid to inspire us to fearlessly fail. Alice Dodge from the Comm Suite. Welcome to the pod. I want to call you a PR and comms guru. Is that okay?
That is very nice. Thank you, Lola. I'll pay you later for that one.
Yeah. Well, we've worked together, so I feel like I've got to experience a little bit of like both sides in a way, being booked as talent to work with you, but then also like we've kind of been on the road together because we did a tour together. So I feel like I've got a little taste of your career, but I really want for the listener, I think this ep is coming out around New Year. People might have like, it's a good time to like rebrand and refresh of the business. I know I'm building a new website at the start of the year, you know, like all those little things. And so I want you to come on here and teach us and help us how to navigate PR, like what it is. But let's start with you because you have so much experience. You've got 2 decades of experience. And before that was like journo. So, mate, talk to me. Like, tell me about, let's talk about your history. Let's talk about it. Like, so where did it all start?
Where did it start? So look, how long have we got? We'll keep the abridged version of the career, but I think, you know, probably like you as a little kid, loved talking, loved writing, loved telling stories.
Yeah.
And I think I knew I wanted to be in that sort of world. So that led me to journalism, went out to Bathurst, best uni for the journo course. Sadly, it's changed its sort of shape with the way the landscape is now. But at the time it was the place where every reporter, every newsreader that you see on the telly tonight, they went to Bathurst. So had the best time there.
Amazing.
Was very determined to be a newsreader, a news reporter. And that led me to Channel 7, where I cut my teeth.
What a great place.
It was amazing. It was an incredible opportunity. I was very lucky to get an internship there when I was still at uni. And I think that sort of really shaped me in I guess more ways than one, because I was this, 20-year-old, 21, and at the end of my uni degree, thrown into the biggest newsroom in the country.
Yeah.
And there was a lot going on, but it did turn into a job, which was amazing. So I was there as assistant chief of staff, which I think is the best place to learn how a newsroom works, because that is the central nervous system of a newsroom. So
Did it feel chaotic?
Oh, it was so chaotic. It was run on coffee, adrenaline, and
because breaking news
all the time.
That would change the whole plan of the day, right?
It does, and I remember so vividly so many breaking news stories happened at sort of the end of my shift. So they'd be like, "Turn around, Alice. We're staying on air," and so your shift does just keep going, and it becomes that's when Australia was really embracing that 24-hour news cycle. So we were. This is like early 2000 and late 2000s and early 2010. So
I wish I talked to you. I work on KTLA in Los Angeles, and they had me booked for when the fires hit, and I kept getting booked and cancelled like over the space of 2 weeks. I think 5 times.
That would happen.
To the point of like I'd be driving to set, and they're like, "Turn around. There's breaking news about fires. You need to go home." And it was so fascinating. Like, it was such a beautiful gift to actually learn. It was obviously a really hard situation for all of LA, but it was such a good experience that it made me realize, oh, news is hard because especially for people running the show.
Absolutely. It doesn't stop.
Yes, and so nimble to just be like, okay, we're going in that direction. And then to also, if something breaks, how do you learn and absorb all of that information, feed it to the host, like get the clips, get someone on the ground, like that feels like a beast.
It is such a beast. And that's why the COS desk, the Chief of Staff desk, was the place to learn, because it's helped me so much in my PR career, because I know exactly what they're doing every day, and especially if it's a big news day. And we've seen some very big news days lately. And I think you have to be so mindful of what when you are in PR, of what is happening in a newsroom particularly, and how your pitch might be landing. So yeah, we definitely. I found that doing the journalism part of my career at the beginning, and I didn't think I'd end up in PR. I actually used to joke about it, going, I'll never work in PR. And I used to sort of joke with my friends and be like, oh, you do PR? Because we all went to the same uni, but some of us did journo, some of us did PR, and there was sort of a few little in-jokes. And here it is, I've actually moved to that industry in the last
And you're running your own show.
Yeah.
Like the Comm Suite is your baby.
It is, yeah.
And so like how, obviously, there's a huge, because you did a chunk of time in London, right? Can you share how you pitched yourself as Alice in London?
Alice in London, Alice in Londonland or something. I can't remember what I actually wrote, but it was in a haze of, I moved to London after 7, and that's when I got into PR, because I sort of decided I want to do the London thing, but I don't want to be doing the hours that I was doing in a newsroom, which were midnight to 9 a.m, very crazy sunrise show hours, which, you can do when you're in your early 20s, but I was just like, no, I want to go to London and enjoy London and see it more. So that meant a PR pivot. But there weren't many jobs because it was the GFC had just sort of finished. It was still the hangover of the GFC over there. And I found this agency. I Googled them and I loved what they were doing. It was all about storytelling. They were called Golden Goose PR.
Great name.
Shout out to my lovely British friends. And they, I wanted a job there. And I thought, well, look, I've had a few rejections from other agencies from just a standard cover letter that you do back then. And I got a bit creative and I thought, well, they're about storytelling. I'm going to take a spin on Alice in Wonderland. I'm going to turn it into my journey coming here. My savings were running out very quickly. I was working in a pub, working no £5. I was earning £5 an hour at the local pub, and I was ringing my mum in tears, going, "That's it, I can't do it." Mum's like, "You've been there for 6 weeks, like just stick it out." Typical, catastrophizing. And that's when I thought, right, we're going to write something a bit creative, and it got me a foot in the door. It got me an internship. I did want a job, and they said, "Look, we can't pay you at the moment, but we'll give you the experience." And as I was wrapping up the internship, we had the best time. They were the most beautiful team, and they were like, "Oh, we're so sad you can't stay." The boss was like, "I wish I could give you a job. I just don't have one at the moment." And then the next day, she rang me. She's like, "We've just won Jaguar Land Rover.
I know.
You're hired." And that was the foot in the door. And it was only 24 hours after my internship. And that took me all over the world. I was 24 and being flown to, Milan for the day. I went to LA. I went to New York. It was insane.
I loved how you wrote to me and you said it was brekkie in London, dinner in Paris.
That's
crazy.
It was because you just jump on the Eurostar. So it was, I was having my brekkie in my London flat, and then I was having dinner with my best friend who lived in Paris at the time, and then I'd be back on the train in bed in London in one day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Awesome. What a great part of, just to also now, being Sydney-based, having all that lived experience. Yeah. And it sounds like both the Channel 7 job and is it Golden Goose?
Yeah.
They, it feels like that's very fast-paced. And so... And Australia, correct me if I'm wrong, feels like a different pace. I notice the difference when I come back from LA. I'm like, 10-minute wait for an Uber? What?
Very different pace. I did find that when I left London. Obviously, I left London for the reasons that most people do, which was the weather. It was just too cold and missed the fam. And so I did 3 years in London. And when I got back, I was like, oh, God, Sydney's slow. But I think, you sort of get to choose the pace. I think that the lovely thing about Sydney or Melbourne or, anywhere in Australia that you return to after overseas is that you can catch your breath a bit.
Yeah.
But I would say that it's still a fast-paced industry. Journalism and PR, I think it's a blessing and a curse that my mind does move pretty fast.
Oh, you're quick.
I struggle.
You love a voice note.
Loves a voice. She needs to switch off. So she needs to do a bit of yogas and meditation with your guidance. And I think that's where, cutting my teeth in the newsroom has helped me exponentially in PR. But sometimes in my personal life, it's hard to switch off. And I think that's where I'm constantly on. And it is hard. And, your cortisol's firing and you do get the heart palpitations.
Yeah.
But then you can sort of, the joy of running your own show, which we'll talk about, is you set the pace. So there are going to be times where, I am really busy and I'm hustling and I'm, working on a number of clients. And then there's going to be a really quiet period. And it's such a great space to be because then I can just lean into that and the clients are like, no, you worked really hard for us this month. Have a breather. We don't have any urgent work at the moment, and we know that when we're back on, we're back on.
You're about, How cool.
Ride the wave.
Well, the thing that I learned working with you, because we did Wonderlust together, it was, because I live in Los Angeles, you organised and choreographed an interview with me with a morning TV show here in Australia, and we were coordinating back and forth on times and talk points, and it moved around a little bit, and I remember I had a flight booked to Australia and we were trying to figure out if we do it in Australia, and so I imagine for you, you're managing the TV show and those producers, you're managing the client, which is Wonderlust. You want to make sure all the messaging and everything is hit. And then you want to keep talent happy as well, because you want talent to hit all the talk points and everyone's happy and tick, tick, tick. But that's managing a lot of personalities.
100%. And I think the joy of working with you on that was you didn't need a lot of briefing. You didn't need any briefing, to be honest. And you knew exactly how to hit those key messages on top of the fact that you'd spoken to this show before, so you were a pro, you knew how to do a Brekkie TV Zoom, because it was still Zoom then. And then it was more, again, just like, what happens with your team in LA. We were getting a bit of updates, like we're moving the segment with Lola, it's going to be next week, it's going to be this week. And so you were great because you're like, that's fine, like this is the time difference, this is what I can do. The client understood, but also I wanted to get that story up because I was like, we need to sell tickets, and it was a very sort of ticket-led call to action for that one.
Yeah.
And you did an amazing job, and that was quite an easy scenario.
Oh, it was so fun.
It's not always like that, and I think you do. Everyone, I think every client has to hold that space to go, we don't run the news. I wish I did. I wish it was Alice's news 24/7. We'd have some great shows on. But we've got to sort of look at it from the perspective of a newsroom, in that we might think it's the best story in the world, but they have 600 other pictures, and that's the cut through, and that's why you ticked all the boxes, because you were a familiar face to that show. You had a great message. It was a timely national message. We had great B-roll. All those little parts, that's what made your cross so strong. And it was so wonderful then to do other ops with you and have you in the country to sort of look at, if we had any news crews come up, I'm absolutely putting Lola in front of, this network, because I know she can hit all the key messages.
You were so much fun to work with. It was like, because I work with publicists a fair bit, especially with booking talent for this podcast. I'll often go through a publicist, especially if they're working on a movie, TV show or a theatre play. And a publicist will often send me like the brief for what they need hit, which is usually ticket sales, when things are available, or where the show's streaming. And it was what I loved about working with you. And I love working with publicists. It's so much fun for me because I feel like I'm getting a peek behind the veil. I'm like,
absolutely,
this is so cool, because I sit in the talent pool as well. But what I really noticed when I was working with you is like you have such a warm, can-do demeanor that like even if I remember we were shooting content in Brizzy or something, and you were like, yeah, Lola, do this, and then I'd be like, cool, see you in 20, and then you have to roll through 6 other talent because we were all speaking, and you were just such a chiller. It was so fun to work with you. And as a result, we've kept a friendship how many years later? It's like 2 or 3 years ago.
It's like no time has passed as well. I remember putting you on that swing being like, you can make this swing look fun. Yeah. You're up for anything, and you have the best can-do attitude. And I think when, I love working with talent like you because you get it, but also you're forging your path. This is about brand Lola, and you've done so many years, decades of brand building yourself, but you can just get on with it, and there isn't an ego, and I think that's really lovely. And I've been actually very lucky. I've worked with a number of talent and some very big names, and I have really never encountered anyone that's been a massive nightmare. There are going to be definitely big personalities, and often sometimes you are actually more up against their publicist than the individual, and so there's a bit of territorial stuff, and you sort of have to just it's a very human industry, and people can also have really bad days, and so you sort of everyone just holds a bit of grace and space for that. As I like to say, it's PR, not ER. And we that's reality check you do need to give yourself sometimes, because what we do is certainly important and moves the dial, and a lot of the cause-led work I'm very passionate about. But we aren't saving lives or curing cancer at the end of the day. We might be able to raise awareness about those things, but there's a lot of big things in the world that are happening, and everyone has their own little micro worlds at home, and people have stuff going on, and it's the whole, walk a mile in someone's shoes. So I do try to do that, probably not as much as I should in my own self, but, sometimes go, don't be so hard on yourself, Alice. Like, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, you do a great job. Can you debunk some stuff for me?
Sure can.
So, and this might sound really simplistic but what is PR?
What is PR? Okay, so it is very much in its purest form. It is the work that goes on behind the scenes to, in every sense of the word, favourably position a brand, a person, a business, an organisation. So I guess the best example is if you were to open up the paper and you saw a story about, let's use an example like Mecca opening a new store. Mecca's PR team would have had a lot to do with that new store opening. They would have worked with the construction team that built the new store and their PR team, and they would have collaborated on how are we going to position this story to make sure that it's covered really well, because it's a really exciting new store opening, and Mecca do that very well. They've got a brilliant team. I really rate their PR team for what they do in the storytelling. And I think just using examples of some of my clients, I work with Lifeline very proudly. I've worked with them for a number of years. I'm in charge of all their campaigns. So if you're opening the paper and there's a story about someone that's very bravely and vulnerably shared their lived experience with suicide, that person I have worked really closely with for weeks or months to ensure they feel safe and comfortable to share that story. And then, only then, would I put them in front of the journalist that we've agreed to talk to, and then they would handle that story with sensitivity and care. And there would be a call to action. There would be messaging around Lifeline in there to say, I wouldn't be here today if Lifeline didn't exist. And that person has bravely done that. But that's a client that really relies on lived experience. So you'd see a lot of charitable stories and hospital stories, and they are really putting forward people that have either undergone treatment, and they've done that with their permission, and it's a very transparent way of ensuring the journalist. We're helping journalists at the end of the day.
Yeah, completely.
They've got to put a paper to print and a TV news bulletin to air, and they don't have infinite resources. We are giving them a really important story, but we go to them. The best PRs go to a journalist understanding fully who they write for, what they need, and what makes a good story. And those ingredients are what makes PR do its thing.
What about, and I know this is like a taboo topic, but what about crisis PR? I imagine it's pretty important. It's big in LA.
I can imagine.
I only know from watching cool shows that are kind of the behind the scenes of it, and you can kind of see it's very it feels very preventative. Like they're getting on ahead of the fire, right before the fire kind of blows up, essentially, as a metaphor.
Nipping it in the bud.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, crisis is such an important thing. You don't need it till you need it. So that's why it is always important to as an organisation to have a plan. So that would start with having your spokesperson media trained. I'd say almost annually. And there are some amazing media trainers here in Sydney and in Melbourne. And all over the country.
Do you have a fave?
Jess Ridley is fantastic.
Okay.
I'd rate her. She's at BTW Media, ex-journo at Channel 9 and Channel 7. Because what's going to happen is they're going to have a microphone thrust in their face the next day, and if they're not ready, even a midnight briefing from their PR person with some key points, if they don't know how to hold themselves in an interview, it is we've seen that happen where CEOs have walked out on live interviews, and it's been diabolical. So I think crisis PR is whether you're a small company, a big company, between social media and everyone having an opinion, which we are absolutely allowed to, we're a democracy, that can be a tinderbox for something getting up that is absolutely disparaging to the brand. So you could have someone that works for a company and has put something up on their personal socials, and it is not good. So then that's when you see them issue a statement, which is usually those grids saying, we posted something the other day that we feel, and that's my biggest takeaway for crisis comms is fess up when you mess up, because it is a human. We are human. We are not robots. Some mistakes are very innocent, and they can have diabolical consequences for the individual's reputation and obviously the brand. So the best crisis comms is where you move quickly, you own it, and you issue a statement. And yes, it will hang around for a while, like a bad smell, and it's not ideal. But if you would follow those steps, and any good crisis comms, there's some amazing crisis comms specialists in Australia. Sally Branson's a fantastic one here. She's up in Queensland. She steers businesses away from these things in a very, very professional way. And she does a lot of coaching, and it is about following some very simple, like the 3 C's, being clear, communicating, consistent, just being human. I think that's the way to do it, because these things happen, and then, there are bigger crises, and there are recalls, and there are, and there's things that affect people's safety, and that brings in a whole lot of other people. But if you're behind the comms of it as their PR person, your job is to make sure a statement is ready very quickly, ideally pre-written before the issue happens, and then it is issued very quickly. Like, you don't have long with media. You've got a couple of hours.
Oh, so wow.
Sometimes, and I think it depends on the time of day it happens, but obviously legal has to feed into it. There are lots of parts that come in to managing a crisis, and there's legal, there's stakeholders, there's the client, there's yourself. There may be a crisis specialist that's been brought in, and they all work really hard to follow it. It's when people put their head in the sand, that's when these things blow up. Or they walk out of interviews, or they snap at reporters. You can't behave like a toddler. You actually have to own it, and might feel really uncomfortable at the time and someone's stuffed up somewhere, but it will, if you fess up early and do it in a way that shows the audience you respect them and the journalists that you respect what they're writing, you will come out more favourably in the long run. It's often the ones that, it's that that story of sort of making a comeback, and they're the stories that people do love.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. That Phoenix from the Ashes.
Phoenix from the Ashes, that's what I was thinking of.
So one of the things you wrote to me when you pitched this essentially.
I did.
And I was like, I don't know, I interview a lot of actors. This is going to be, and so we kind of went back and forth a little bit with like brainstorming. And I love when you wrote, this is kind of like what got it across the line for me. You wrote this, your network is your net worth and the importance of relationships. Now, I would have fought that against you. Like I would have been like, no, if you just work really hard and you're honest, you got no problem. Like the work will speak for itself. But having now lived in Los Angeles, I can see that I have been booked on roles because of my relationship with people and because they want to work with me. Absolutely. Not necessarily because I'm obviously not a known actor, so like it can't be that. And when you wrote down about like the importance of relationships, it is a hallmark of Los Angeles. Like it is how you do business.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. So that old saying
Correct.
as well. Yeah.
And it's 100% true. And I fought it for years. Can you share a little bit about the importance of relationships?
Oh, it is vital. I don't think you should go into PR if you are not good at relationships in your personal life, but also professionally. It is the smallest industry. I mean, I am, on great terms with every boss I've ever had. I've never left a job disgruntled because what has happened in the last few years since running the Com Suite is I've had referrals from those bosses and from former managers, and it is and people actually haven't even met. They're like, oh no, I don't know you, but I met so-and-so at a networking event and they said I should reach out to you. There is so much of this, and this will be happening for you as well, Lola. Like in the background, people are having conversations about you right now, and you won't, it's like goosebumpsy stuff, but like you will find out about that soon. That's just the way it works because you present yourself in the way that is, I'm curious, I'm here to work, and you've got the body of work and the experience that is there, but you can only get that over time too. And I think for me, I have absolutely, hand on heart, had the majority of clients that the Com Suite has worked with or is currently worked with have all come through a referral.
Really?
Which I'm really proud about. Yeah, so it's been amazing. But, that's not to say I'm not out there hustling for other clients. It is a flood and famine industry sometimes, and this is a quieter period, which I'm really trying to lean into because it's summer. And I just want to relax
Sydney,
a bit.
hot girl summer.
Sydney girl summer. But it is, and then when it rains, it pours, and you might get 4, and you're like, I can't take you all. So they don't always fit with the times you have quiet time, and you start to know when to ride the waves. Like, okay, I know it usually gets busy around this time of year, and then it's going to drop off a bit. And then I know these clients have really big campaigns. But I'm really proud of the referral rate, and I honestly do believe that everyone you cross paths with, they might not be a lifelong friend, but they might be someone that refers you down the line that you never even know about. And I think you're always making an impression whether you know it or not.
Oh, 100%. I want to convince you to take on, I know you don't do personal branding and all the PR around personal. I'm like, oh my God, you'd be such a great team member because in America, all actors have PR. Like they work with someone that reps them just like a manager would. And it's just as important as having your manager, your lawyer, your agent, like publicist, all PR. Yeah. It's like but you work more with like brands and businesses, right?
I do. And I do work with those talent managers though. So what happens is, for clients like Lifeline again, we work very closely with, JMO's been an amazing ambassador, and I've worked directly with him, and we have a fantastic relationship, and he's wonderful.
He's been on the
wonderful
pod
ad.
too.
Yes, he has. I listened to that. It was such a good episode. He's been amazing, and more the sort of talent like people that have a manager. I would approach the manager, say, Lifeline would love to work with your talent. And they often say, well, thank you, because you've obviously read about our talent, and they do have lived experience with mental health or lived experience with another sort of tragedy that might have happened in their life, and they really want to raise awareness. It's a charity. They will do this work, with absolute passion and authenticity. So I deal with and what I offer them in exchange is obviously the PR results that I can get. But to your point, I think, I love people. I love, looking at how we can, make their amazing skills shine more. So I wouldn't say that door would be closed. It's just I probably just haven't had time to
you don't stop. Can you talk to me about the importance of strategy? I imagine it would be the difference in night and day.
Absolutely. I think there is no such thing as spray and pray in this industry.
Oh my God, I love it.
I'm coming out with all the puns for you this
I've
week.
been back in Australia for like literally 24 hours. Oh, spray and pray.
Try and use it in a sentence today. See how you go.
Oh my God, we'll see.
But spray and pray, look, in its PR innocent form is very much about writing an email and literally BCCing 100 people and hoping it's like throwing something against the wall and hoping it sticks. And that is not PR. That is, that lacks a lot of things, mainly strategy. Strategy is the golden thread that will run through any campaign, any retainer, any brand, any person. That takes time. And I think when you're coming to a PR with a brief and you really want to work with them, you've got this really cool launch or this really cool product or something's happening, you have to bake in a bit of time for strategy to happen.
Yeah.
You can't say, I want coverage in tomorrow's Sydney Morning Herald, because unless it's breaking news, I'm sorry, you're not going to get that.
Yeah.
So it is very much, holding space for what is a strategy. A strategy is essentially, these are the business priorities for the brand, the business, the person, the CEO, whoever we're talking about. We need to hit all these markers. And then what the PR does is they take those business priorities and they come back with a strategy and they say, right, we understand this is really important to you. You need to sell X amount of product. You need to sell tickets. You need to repair damage from some crisis that you dealt with recently. Whatever the challenge is, the business challenge and the business objectives, those sort of get put in the magic PR machine, the brain, and you work out a strategy. But that does take time because you're looking at all scenarios. You're like, well, if we're to pull this, and then from the strategy comes the tactics. So the tactics might be, the strategy is we need to achieve X, Y, Z, and this is the human challenge. This is the perception. This is what we need to address, and that's what makes it tick with the consumer. And then cascading off that are the tactics. So that might be a launch event, a festival. It might be I'm trying to think off the top of my head. It could be anything. Like tactics are it could be a social media play. It could be gifting, some influencers, some products.
It's making me realise, I don't know if you know this, I used to have a smoothie bar in Melbourne called Happy Place, and we worked with the PR company around the launch of that.
Yep.
And like we had a soft social media launch, which was me teaching yoga and making smoothies for everybody.
Yep.
And then like there was all the press came out after it was officially open, like everything was timed out.
Exactly.
And like even when you talk about strategy, like we did a special shoot that was specifically designed for the target media that we wanted to hit as well. And like I imagine that all comes from like brainstorming and strategy and like almost planning back, like looking at the end result and then planning backwards from there.
Exactly. And that's what a strategy is. It is the roadmap that we're driving a car, we're flying a plane, use whatever, and the strategy is the roadmap. So if we start to go a bit off or someone's big idea, you just say, we've got to go back to the strategy, because this is what we need to achieve. Now, we are also talking about something that is so out of our control, which is landing coverage. We cannot do, unless we're paying for it, we cannot guarantee it. So what goes into a strategy is a lot of experience, in that I have done this for a number of years. In a perfect scenario, we are going to hopefully get Channel 7 News, SMH, Herald Sun, and then what layers on top of that is the relationships, and that's the secret sauce. And that's when you go, I think because of my relationship with this journo, they've said to me they're really looking for stories that do X, Y, and Z. This is that. We are absolutely, with what you need to achieve from a business point of view, we're going to take that with the assets, photography, videography, whatever we've got, and the talent, and we're going to compellingly pitch that, whether that's an exclusive. They love an exclusive, so that is always a good way to go. But if it's not an exclusive, the strategy has to explain why it's not an exclusive or why it is. So you do have to sort of defend all your recommendations to the nth degree. But it takes time, and a good client, and there are very many of those, will understand that, okay, I'm not just buying you to get me results, I'm buying you for your relationships and your strategic thinking as well.
It's like long-term.
Long game. Yeah.
So you sound to me, chatting to you, like very driven, motivated. You're like, it feels like you're someone that really likes momentum and moving forward. How do you handle rejection? Like you'd be pitching all the time. I imagine rejection is just part of the game.
It is.
How do you navigate that?
You get very good at managing expectations, and I think your strategy does factor that in. So just going back to strategy, you will say, look, we may not hit all this media.
Yeah.
So the backup plan is this. And rejection happens all the time. I've put forward amazing pitches. I've had pitches accepted that I didn't think were that great, and they ended up being huge stories. So sometimes a journalist, you could have managed the client's expectations to say, oh, look, we might not get TV, and then you still pitch it to TV, of course, with what they need. And they're like, yeah, we're actually doing a broader segment on that. So this is really good. It's timing. But no, rejection's hard. Your client would always, if you've managed their expectations, they will always understand. And their job is to manage up the chain, because they've obviously got a boss that's saying, well, why haven't I seen this story on Channel 7 News? And you have to say, well, because our PR person hasn't yet been able to secure that, but they've come back with some other recommendations. I think the key is not to take it personally. Like I said, I'm pretty sure a journalist gets at least 150 pictures a day. Like, to even be getting a response sometimes is huge. They don't have time to write back to everyone individually. And they do often say, and I do respect this, having been on both sides, no answer is sometimes an answer. I understand clients need feedback, because I have to give mine feedback a lot. And I think, based on your relationship, you can always get feedback. You can go, that's fine, totally understand it's not one for insert program or publication. Just so we know what you're looking for in the future, what else could we do, or is there any feedback? And the really good journos, they do take 5 minutes. They say, look, that's great. I actually covered this a couple of weeks ago. You wouldn't have seen it, but, I'll be like, I didn't. But now I've gone back into the back catalogue. I have seen it, because you can't be across every story that lands. So the good ones do that. And the good ones understand this is a very, cohesive relationship between a PR and a journo. They work best when they work together.
100%.
So we're very lucky. We've got
They
some
feed one another.
amazing journos here in Australia that I work with regularly, and new ones I meet all the time, and some move around, and like I said, relationships are the bread and butter with everything you do. But rejection happens. It absolutely stings. We are also promising something that can't be guaranteed. So there is that grace. KPIs are obviously a really good thing to build into your agreements. But, it's important to caveat that we can't control the news agenda, especially when there's breaking news.
Alice, I could talk to you all day long.
We have been yakking.
If you could just summarize the top three, this is not fair of me to do this to you, the top 3 skills if someone is looking to engage with PR, say they've got a brand, it's the new year, they're thinking of some cool idea, and they're like, right, like I can see the importance of PR. There's relationships there that don't exist for me. I need to have access or somebody that can facilitate that. What are 3 skills someone should look for when they're sitting, or 3 like hallmarks of someone when they're having that initial meeting with PR?
Right. So we're looking at it from the client's perspective.
Correct,
and they're looking. They want to hire a PR.
Yeah. So if you and I were having, say I had a coffee brand and was like, okay, I want to look at a 3-month PR campaign, and we were having a meeting, what would I be looking for in PR?
Great question. I don't think this question's asked often enough. I think you've obviously done a bit of your research, I'd imagine. You've jumped online, you've had a look at websites and Instagrams, but you would be really looking for someone who isn't going to pull the wool over your eyes. I think you've got to have a pretty good BS detector in this industry. Somebody that is really going to understand your brand. Now, we're not going to recite the brand like you do because it's your baby, but as a PR, you've got to be ready to jump in feet first as that brand representative and treat it like it is your brand. And I've seen the best feedback you can get from a client is they're like an extension of my team. So if you're willing to be an extension of Lola Coffee, that's where you're going to start to see, okay, this is she gets it. She or he gets it. They're going to be they're going to fly that flag whenever they're talking to a journo. I trust that they are going to be, so they look for that.
Pitching,
And then I think it's no BS, embodying the brand and being good at what you do, being a good writer, being understanding being curious about the world, not looking for cookie cutter angles, surprising them with things that they haven't thought of. And I think that's why you bring on a PR, because you don't want to do that work, or you probably PR'd out yourself and you're like, I need fresh eyes. I need someone to look at this with a different perspective. So definitely having that curiosity and just ready to get your hands dirty. I think that's that when you're a sole trader, you are going up and down, up and down. I'm writing the pictures, I'm selling them in, I'm, sharing the coverage. And I love that. And, when you've got a bigger team, you can have resources to support that. But if you've engaged a PR that is a bigger agency or a bigger team, a small to medium, you definitely want to look at who the team is and how they all work together. And that's a really important thing for anyone engaging PR, because you want to ensure you're in the best possible hands.
I love that you said curiosity, because I think that anybody listening to this with any passion or career that they're like the driver of, I think that curiosity, you can almost put it to any goal and it won't let you down, because it's just a sense of openness, right? As opposed to like holding on too tight to something or being scared of judgment or whatever. And that's my thing with acting or even the pod. If I get nervous, I'm just like, get curious. And it straight away, it's just such a great value to have.
It grounds you.
Yeah. To the listener, if you need an amazing PR or comms person, look up Alice Dodge, the comms suite. She's incredible. I've worked with her, I feel like, quite a bit because that was quite a long tour. We did a lot of it.
We did. What happened on the road stayed on the road. We had a lot of fun. Matt was in the green room.
Yeah,
that's how we met Matt.
So good.
We had a ball.
So thank you so much, and thank you for jumping on this pod. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for everything you do, Lola.
That's a wrap on another episode of Fearlessly Failing. As always, thank you to our guests, and let's continue the conversation on Instagram. I'm at Yummo Lola Berry. This poddy, my word for podcast, is available on all streaming platforms. I'd love it if you could subscribe, rate, and comment. And of course, spread the love.